Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. Thanks so much for stopping by. On today's video, I'm going to talk with you about my 5-step simple workflow for processing photos in Lightroom. Now, to give you some backstory on how I came up with this workflow, I have to go back a couple of years when I was teaching people about technology of various different backgrounds and different skill levels on how to actually process their photos. I was constantly run up against a wall and an obstacle where I didn't know how to get them from point A all the way to point Z in their photography workflow. So I was brainstorming one night and really came up with this 5-step process that I'm going to share now with you today. So what is this 5-step process? The 5-step process that I'm talking about with you today is capture, import, organize, edit, and share. Capture, import, organize, edit, share. With these 5 steps, I have found that it makes your photography workflow so much more simple, and at each stage of the journey, if you get stuck on a specific area, you know exactly where you are in the process and what's your next step to go. So let's dive into it today, and let's start by number 1, talking about capturing a photo. Now, when we talk about capturing a photo, this can be honestly some of those fun times that I've ever had in life. I remember going back to the very first time when I had a DSLR for the first time in college, a Nikon D80 that I took the first picture of my girlfriend then that would become my wife, Christina. And ever since then, I've been trying to learn and hone my craft and get better at shooting photos and shooting video on a DSLR. It's been a lot of fun. I've made a lot of mistakes, but it's a fun process to try to learn and to grow in photography. Now, honestly, when you capture things, you can capture things like portraits or landscapes, beautiful, amazing sunsets. The art is really trying to capture the moment that you have in front of you and really try to share that with the entire world. Now, this capture stage is where a lot of people spend a ton of money. They upgrade their camera every year when a new camera comes out, or they upgrade their lens, their lighting, what have you. There's a lot of money that can be spent on camera gear and in this first initial phase of getting the capture of an image right. What I'll say is this, and it's a quote by Chase Jarvis, a famous photographer and social entrepreneur, and he says, the best camera is the one you have with you. You see, you can't capture a nice photo with your amazing $10,000 DSLR if you don't simply have it with you. So I try to make it a practice to always carry my camera with me at any time, so that way I can capture the moments of life along the way. Sure, you can say like it's big, it's bulky, whatever, but it's worth it if you try to capture the image in a really compelling way. So that's the first stage in this photography workflow process. Check it off your list. We are moving on to number 2, import. Now you're like, this is a weird step in the process. Can't you just get on to like editing and sharing my photos with my friends? Yes, but I want to specifically tell you how I import my footage, where I put it, what program I use to try to help you along the way. So I have a memory card here with an SD card reader. I'm going to pop this into my laptop and hopefully I'll show you some things that you maybe have never known in Lightroom before. Now, my editing tool of choice is Lightroom, like I said. I have used Lightroom for a couple years now. I made the transition from different photography programs onto this one, and I really like the way it's set up. Is it perfect? No, but I do love it. It's a great tool and it's really made a lot of my photos come to life. Let's go from left to right on the screen here and kind of walk you through how I import my photos. The first thing you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen is what's called your source area. So this is where your photos are coming from. Now, in this case, I'm coming from my SD card, which is entitled Untitled at this point. And when I click on that, all of these photos that are yet to be added to the Lightroom library show up in my window. The next thing you'll see is this middle area where all my images show up and a few settings up here at the very top. Now, what I like to do is copy directly from my SD card into my Lightroom library and copy as a DNG. Now, DNG in simple ways is a way to future-proof your raw photos. So no matter if you have a Sony, a Canon, a Nikon, what have you, this will turn the raw photos into a format that will be hopefully future-proof for years to come. So copy as DNG. Let's move over to the right-hand side of Lightroom and show you what's there. So these are your target. So if we had source, where the images are coming from, on the right-hand side, that's your target, where the images are going to. Now in this case, I'm going to save just a regular copy to my hard drive on my Mac, and then build one-to-one previews, build smart previews, so that way it'll help me with editing a little bit quicker. And the second option here is don't import selected duplicates, meaning if Lightroom sees that I have duplicates in this screen that's already in my Lightroom library, it's just gonna skip right over the top of it. I can actually apply develop settings, meaning presets, onto my images on the import. Now, some people like to do this just to kind of get some of the camera calibration out of the way. I don't do this at this time because I want to make my import process as fast and simple as possible. But just so you know, that's what that option is there for. The next thing on the way is which folder are we going to import all our photos into? So in this case, I have most of my pictures stored in my picture folder, and I'm going to make a subfolder called Family Fun. And you notice it appears right here at the very top under my pictures folder. So that's where these photos are gonna go to. The next step you would think is just the import button, but I wanna hesitate and kind of slow you down for 1 second. What I would advise you to do is most people nowadays, especially if they're importing directly off a camera card or a phone or an actual camera, they take not just pictures, they also take video. So there's video and pictures mixed in with each other. You might shoot, 2 or 3 videos, then go back to shooting, 10 or 15 photos, go back to shooting 2 or 3 videos, and go back to shooting more photos. So I don't want my videos inside my Lightroom library. I only want photos because I don't use Lightroom to actually process my video footage. So before you hit the import button, go over to this check all and uncheck all section, press and hold your option key. Now you'll notice these buttons went over to check videos and uncheck videos. What that means is simply if it sees any videos in the feed coming off the camera card, it's going to automatically not import those because we're going to uncheck them. So option click uncheck videos just to be safe. And then now I'm gonna click the import button. So after the importing stage, our third step in this simple photography workflow is organize your footage. Now, why we have organized here in this process as opposed to editing first? What I have found is that sure, when you first get started and you see images come into your computer for the first time, you get excited. You want to apply edits to it, you wanna see how the picture turned out, you wanna see if the moment was truly captured. That's a lot of fun. Go ahead and do it if you're brand new. But if you're a seasoned photographer and you're trying to get better at your workflow and process, I would advise put organize before editing because it'll make your editing process a lot easier and simpler in the long run. What do I mean by that? So there is a couple times when I've been shooting all day and captured hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 or so images at once. When I get back home for the night and go to my computer to start editing them, there are thousands of pictures that I have to go through. And before I ever edit my photos, I need to pick the ones I'm gonna edit. And sifting through thousands of images can be very daunting. So before we actually get to selecting which images I'm gonna edit, I'm gonna tell you where I put my photos. I currently have 4 Lightroom libraries. Now you say 4 Lightroom libraries, that's a lot. But they all have a very specific purpose. I have my personal Lightroom library where all my photos go that are only for personal purposes. Maybe they're family photos, a trip that I took, what have you. I have a professional Lightroom library. So any photos that I get paid for by a client, they go into that professional library so I can reference them later, and they're also backed up in a lot of different places. I have a church Lightroom library because I do a lot of nonprofit and volunteer work for my church here in the community. And then I finally have a 4th Lightroom library called a time-lapse library. All of the photos that I actually ever shoot on my DSLR that are time-lapse photos go into a separate library so they don't bog down any of my other 3 libraries with all of that footage. Because you're talking maybe for a 20-second time-lapse, that's like close to like 500 to 800 images, depending on how your frame rates are. So those are my 4 Lightroom libraries that are stored on different places, not on my laptop. Now, where are they stored at? I do have a LaCie rugged hard drive that I carry with me on trips, but my main landing point for all my footage after I'm done processing them on my laptop is an OWC 4-bay Thunderbolt 2 hard drive array. I don't choose to array this array, I choose to keep each disk separate, but it's an external drive that I dump all of my stuff onto after I'm done editing and it's polished and everything on my laptop, get it off my laptop, free up space off this, and then it lives on there going forward. All right, so we're diving back into Lightroom at this time, and now we're gonna start weeding through some of the photos that I don't want so I know which edits I'm gonna apply in just a second. So I'm gonna double click on a photo and I'm gonna see the first photo that I get here. Now, if I like that photo a lot and I know I'm gonna keep it and try to edit it for later, I'm going to apply a star rating to it. Now I choose 1, 2, 3, or 4 stars at this point, and I just sift through images that are very similar and pick the ones that I wanna keep. So in this case, I'm gonna pick the first one and just apply a 3-star rating to it and move on to the next series of images. At this point, I'm gonna look through these series of photos, a selfie I took with my daughter, apply a rating to it. I'll go to the next phase of images here, and then I really like this photo, apply a rating to it, and then one last one, and we're done. If you ever want to quickly get back to the grid of photos when you have one photo up in Lightroom, just press the G key on your keyboard and it's going to get you right back to where all the other photos are. So now I've applied some ratings to these photos, a couple of them out of the 19 that I imported here, and those are the ones that I want to separate from the rest and start editing those photos. So go up to the very top right hand corner, and that's where it says filters off, and go to rated, and it's only going to show the photos that you rated upon importing. This process has saved me so much time when I'm trying to go through thousands of different images and look at the ones I'm going to keep. I'm not going to edit all those thousands of photos. I'm only going to keep the ones and edit the ones that I truly think are the best ones. Now we move on to step 4, the fun part of editing your photos. This is where you get to take your photos from good to great. Of all the things you get right in camera for capturing your photos, there is nothing like trying to edit your photos and color correct them later. The first step in editing your photos is just get some of the basic things out of the way. Try to get your exposure, your white balance, your contrast, your lens corrections, and all that kind of stuff done. And I'll show you that here in a second. So if you're clicked on a photo and you want to automatically in Lightroom go to start editing the photo, just go to the D key and it's going to take you to the develop module where you can just start applying some edits. The first thing I do is look at the very bottom where it says lens corrections and make sure that enable profile corrections is turned on. What does that mean? My camera has electronic communication that communicates from the lens to the camera, and then that communicates to Lightroom and tells it to try to take away some of maybe the vignetting as well as the distortion that the lens creates. And that gets checked on. I also check the box that says remove chromatic aberrations. Next, we're going up to the very top where it says basics and just really try to get some of the basic stuff out of the way. So I'm going to pick my white balance here. I think I got this pretty much right in camera, but I'm going to click a neutral area to correct the white balance. Get some of my exposure right, bring that up a little bit, maybe add some contrast, maybe some vibrance, and then a little bit of saturation, clarity, and bring the exposure back down. I like to play with the highlights and shadows, especially on my camera, because it maintains so much dynamic range that it really brings out a different area of the photo. I'm going to take those highlights back down just up a little bit, and my shadows back down just a little bit. So that's a basic correction on a photo in Lightroom. There are lots of different people that have inspired me over the years in the way they edit their photos. People like Alan Palander for landscape and automotive photos. He has a very unique style where he takes a lot of the blues and greens and oranges out of the image and leaves the reds and the grays, so it looks really, really good. Another person that I like to use their presets is Phil Chester. He has a lot of great moody presets that maintain skin tones. And then finally, the presets that I use most is a modified preset of the Visual Supply Company, or Visco Cam, and I use their specific film 4 toolkit. I'm going to reset this image right now and go back to my customized preset for that and apply this. And this has already been kind of corrected. I need to maybe dial down some of the temperature here a little bit, but that gives me a nice contrasty, colorful photo that I can work with, and I think it works really well for kids and family shots. The last step in the journey, and that is sharing your photos, step number 5. Now in Lightroom, all you need to do is share photos is press Command-Shift-E or go up to File and Export on your File menu. What I choose to do here is export to hard drive, export to my pictures folder, put in a subfolder, and then look at renaming each photo to whatever the theme of the time was. I don't want to leave it like the generic DMP7161 JPEG that my camera spits out. I kind of want to have a custom unique name. The next section here, it's not a video, so I'm going to skip that area. For file settings, I want to make sure it's in JPEG, 100% quality, and in the sRGB color space. For image sizing, I don't resize to fit anything here into this image sizing area. I do want my resolution though to be 300 pixels per inch. The metadata section, I don't want to remove any person info. I want it to be my camera and all that kind of stuff, and I don't want to remove any location info either. The last step in the process is show in Finder after export, and the reason being is a lot of times I'll be working on photos and maybe have 100 or 200 photos to export from Lightroom. And when it's exporting, I get up and do something else. I maybe start editing some video or something else on my computer and I forget what's happening. So I kind of want a dialog box to pop up in my face saying, hey, your export's done, go look at your photos. So once I'm done here, I'm gonna hit the export button and those photos automatically get added to my pictures folder under the subfolder that I chose. Now what happens from there? They don't just live on my hard drive. So once the pictures get exported from Lightroom to a specific folder of my choosing, they then get added to the first location of my choosing, which is my Photos app. My Photos app on my computer then uploads all the photos to the cloud, and then that's one backup of all my photos. The second place they go is my laptop, as well as my desktop upstairs, is automatically synced and backed up using Backblaze. I love Backblaze. I've been using them for a couple of years. This video is not sponsored by them. Backblaze, if you want to reach out and sponsor a video, I would sure love it because I love your product. It's about $50 a year for the plan I use, which is less than $1 a day at this point, $1 a week even. And I know for my purposes that I have a backup here at the house. I have another backup in a closet somewhere. But I want to back up offsite in case a disaster happens, whether it be weather related or crime related. That's offsite, so that way all my stuff is there. And Backblaze just gives me that peace of mind, so it can be offsite somewhere in a remote location. If I ever need to retrieve it and put it on a new computer, it's there for me to download from the cloud. Third location, obviously social media. You know, this is a lot of fun right now to post photos that I've processed on social media and share them with the family. I love doing that a whole lot. And if you can find me on Instagram at Drew Polenencia. You can find me on Twitter at Drew Polenencia, or you can find me on Facebook at Drew Polenencia. I think you're sensing a theme here. If you've liked this video today, I would really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. We are almost at 100 subscribers. You know, when I first started this channel a year ago, I didn't know how many people would be interested in the content, and I've been constantly trying to rethink about how I can shoot videos and help other people. So if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell to make sure you stay up to date whenever I post a new video, and then smash the like button so I know that you actually like this video. Until next time, this is Drew. I appreciate you stopping by.